What is going on YouTube? This is Acid Roots. So I'm going to review the debut album by rapper Gorilla Zoe. Basically, this project is called Welcome to the Zoo, and it came out in the fall of 2007. And the thing about Gorilla Zoe is the fact that he was the new member of Boys in the Hood, the group from 2005. Basically, Boys in the Hood had Young Jeezy in the group before Gorilla Zoe, and after Young Jeezy left, Gorilla Zoe was the replacement. So it's a pretty good pitch to get that one in particular. Gorilla Zoe did a great job with Boys in the Hood, I suppose. Definitely enjoyed, definitely appreciated some of those concepts. Now I'm going to have to I reviewed all the albums by Boys in the Hood, but I am going to have to start getting into some of their mixtapes. Some of that's coming down the pipeline as far as that particular pitch kind of happens. And there's definitely some Gorilla Zoe mixtapes I'm going to get to, but I wanted to start getting into some Gorilla Zoe because after all this time, I haven't reviewed any of his solo albums, but I definitely have enjoyed them. I definitely have enjoyed them. So I like all three of his particular albums as far as that particular. So I like all three of his particular albums as far as that pitch kind of happens with it. But this is an excellent one. This is definitely a classic here. I'd have to say this is probably better than Boys in the Hood's Backup in the Chevy, although that's pretty damn near a classic. I'd have to say Boys in the Hood was really on fire in 2007, despite the fact that some folks felt like that album wasn't quite as good as it was, but it was pretty highlighted type one. This is definitely like a classic here. Welcome to the Zoo is definitely like a classic here. Just a very thumping, kind of trap heavy type album that just did a lot of things right. But it's kind of an amalgamated type thing just because Gorilla Zoe was pretty popular after this particular album. He had a number of hit albums. It wasn't just this one that was pretty boppish. His Don't Gorilla Zoe's second album from 2009, Don't Feed the Animals, was pretty damn good as well. That was a pretty awesome type one to kind of get around that particular time. Around that particular time, that did a lot of damage in the Atlanta Sun in 2009 and stuff, and this one did as well. So it's kind of the concept about it. This particular album is interesting about it just because the pitch about this particular project just has some stuff on here where this is kind of like a work shift kind of album. It's interesting that Gorilla Zoe kind of had like some work shift type songs on here. He does step out a bit, but it does have like some typical kind of work shift bill paying, the standard malaise of just getting work done and stuff like that. I mean, it's kind of in like a trap type sense, but there are more songs on here. Jeezy was a lot more trap oriented, just in the sense of like a hustler's kind of drug dealer type mindset. But Gorilla Zoe understands like the concept a little bit better of like the work shift and just kind of having class and work and some of those type things. Maybe not as full blown saying like, oh, go work at Popeyes or something like that, or KFC, some of those type pitches, but just kind of the concept of just realizing that you have responsibilities to get done, just kind of having the concept of getting money and some of that type pitch. Even if Gorilla Zoe doesn't really full blown allude to like a blue collar type job, it's just kind of the concept of a lot of these productions and just overall fairs type here are just committed to like the work shift as far as that kind of happens. It's interesting, but this is not a square of a project, I'd have to say. It's definitely some excellent stuff on here. There's some nightclub songs. There are some songs like Hood Nigga and Juice Box and Money Man and some of those type ones that have supposed, but it's just kind of a good amalgamation, just kind of some of those type formats, just because Jeezy was a lot more recreational, a lot more like, once again, he was a lot more just kind of drug dealer oriented just within that rugged pitch. Now Gorilla Zoe is definitely a hustler, some of that type pitch, but he just has more of like a work shift type haze about it. Some of these there's some folks that feel like Gorilla Zoe doesn't compare to Jeezy, but all of these songs damn near on this particular album are pretty top shelf produced. I'd have to say this is an excellent produced album, and Gorilla Zoe has swag and charisma for days. He definitely has some great character on here. He's not as much of like a full blown lyricist, but he does have like the character charm on here. And he was a pretty great member of Boys in the Hood. He was probably the one that was he was definitely a highlight off the Boys in the Hood albums and mixtapes as far as those pitches kind of having the projects that he did with them. So it's just some good stuff. But yeah, to talk about the songs on here, basically go in on some of these songs. There's two singles off this particular project. One was Hood Nigga that came out in like the spring or summer of 2007. That was a big deal around that particular time. And then Juice Box was the follow up that came out several months after the album came out in the fall of 2007. So we'll go ahead and talk about these. So Hood Nigga, basically, Hood Nigga is like a bright and glared kind of smoke a few nightclub type haze of a song. I'd have to say this song has a great chorus. I'd have to say it's got some emphatic energy. I would definitely feel like, and this is just a strong single. So this is definitely a pretty strong single here. Just a real hooky type one. This works pretty affably. I'd have suppose just a real nice one to kind of get. Just a great production on here. Just an excellent produced type one. This in some cases can outstrip some of the worst Jeezy type songs that have suppose. Not to say that Gorilla Zoe is worse than Jeezy, but it's just kind of the concept. This song just kind of came out of nowhere and was just very dominant throughout the summer of 2007. Definitely made Gorilla Zoe one of the central figures of 2007 in rap music as far as that pitch kind of has with it. This is just a very crispy touch. It's just a very excellent type song here. It's a very tight package and overall quality type song that just did a lot of damage. There's a lot of folks that feel there may be some folks that feel like Gorilla Zoe wasn't able to top this song, but he did on this particular album. There's just plenty of hits off this particular album. This is just the most affable in terms of like chart appeal and this overall radio readiness. But I do feel like Juice Box is a pretty excellent one to get also. Juice Box with Young Jock is like a bleary kind of nightclub fun of a song. I'd have to say it's like a stellar kind of ladies twerk craze of a song. I would definitely feel like, and this is just a syrupy kind of hypnotic bounce of a song. I would definitely have to suppose, and this is just an affable kind of radio hit. So this is a pretty nice one. This one's a little bit more radio ready in terms of like being for the ladies as far as that pitch kind of has with it. But both these are pretty boisterous type ones that just have a lot of good affable energy and just overall infectiousness that works pretty well about them. These are just some real kind of stepping out type tunes just to have for some crisp kind of nightlife and just things like that. Just as far as that pitch kind of has with it. Some boisterous type ones. Young Jock really has a show stealing. Young Jock really has a show stealing verse on Juicebox. He does a pretty great job on that particular song. These Gorilla Zoe and Young Jock songs are pretty awesome and excellent to get some of those. It's just good pitch to kind of have those. So it's a good concept with that. This is just the one great 1-2 punch for the singles as far as that pitch kind of happens. Really too bad that there weren't more singles off this album. There definitely could have been. I felt like Battlefield would have been a nice one. I feel like Count on Me would have been a nice one. I think You Don't Know Me would have been a nice choice for some of those type pitches. Probably would have to say Money Man or Lil Shotty would have been some nice ones as well. There's just some good Apple type songs on here. I definitely think Gorilla Zoe could have pushed this album a lot further than he did, but still good concept to get this because this is a classic. So basically to recommend the songs out of 15 I recommend on this particular album. So out of 15 songs in here, there's really only 2 songs I don't recommend. That would just be Do Something and Real Motherfucker. The 2 songs I don't recommend would just be Do Something and Real Motherfucker, which are those are like the only real 2 songs I had any sort of problem with. Basically, Real Motherfucker, that's a decent bop. I do like the production on there. It's just kind of a glitzy kind of out. It's just kind of a glitzy out on the town type song for your homies as far as that pitch can happen, but it just didn't really do that much. It's just kind of the concept. That one's like a ride out type song. It's just, it works in some pitches. It's probably a song that could all, Real Motherfucker is probably a song that could almost be an almost song, but I just don't know how oftenly I'd listen to it. So it's just kind of the pitch of just being here and there. But this album's going to get a 10 out of 10, so it doesn't really matter. But this is just kind of one that's not necessarily a horrible song. It's just kind of the concept. It's just not how it's just not too commonly I would listen to it, I'd have to say. And then Do Something was like the only real poor production on this particular album that I just didn't enjoy at all. This was like the only real song I didn't have any. Do Something was like the only song on this particular album that I didn't have any sort of affinity towards. I'd have to say just in particular. So the only real true dud on here was just kind of the concept about it. I mean, it's kind of like a cagey kind of wild. It's kind of like a cagey kind of wild type song, but I just feel like the production type fair was trying to be something zoo like, but it just didn't pull out the vibe quite as well as it needed to. It was just kind of a poor type one that I just didn't really connect with. It's really the only song that's the true only real dud. It's like the only real true dud on this particular album, I'd have to say. But talk about some of these songs I recommend on here. Basically, Trying to Make a Jug is a pretty highlighted one. It's like a pounding, kind of heavy hitting hustle tune. I'd have to say, definitely appreciate this one. This is like a get the money kind of rumbler. I'd have to suppose. This song has a great beat and it's very thrilling. So this one's a pretty pounding one. I like the fact that Big Gee from Boys in the Hood is on here. Big Gee's on this album a couple of times, as is Young Jock. Some of those type pitches. It's an excellent type one. Probably one of the best beats on the album in terms of overall exhilaration. I'd have to say, just a real nice one. Just a real kind of quick tempo, heavy hitting type one that just is very exhilarating. I'd have to say, just a real nice one. Another song that has one of the best beats on this particular album is Crack Music. Really like this one quite a bit. It's like an excellent kind of dreary malaise kind of crawling bop, I'd have to suppose. This is like a head smog from smoking type. It's definitely like a head smog from smoking type tune, I would have to say. And this is just some evening kind of car haze, I would definitely feel like. So this is definitely like some hot box. This would definitely be like a hot box the car type tune as far as that pitch can have with it. Just real smogged and slow. This would just be a real smogged and kind of slaggish type feeling of this particular one. Just a lot of fatigue and malaise about this particular song, but I really like this one. This is a real excellent kind of dreary type one that just has a lot of good appeal. There are some car songs on this particular album. There's some ones on here like Crack Music, Battlefield. I'll say Crack Music, Battlefield, You Don't Know Me. There's some nice car type songs on here. Definitely within that relative pitch. Take Your Shoes Off is a pretty nice one for that relative pitch. I Know is a pretty nice one for that. There are some car-centric type songs on here that have a good affability, just like the standard kind of work shift. We'll get to some more of these work shift type ones, but it's just kind of the concept that if you think this album is just full of nightclub bops, it really isn't. There is some work shift type songs like I was saying before, but we'll get to that. Basically, Battlefield's a pretty nice one. This is like a real this is kind of like a trend setting type song, I'd have to say. It's like a great kind of early Future like tune, I would have to say. And by Future, I mean Future the rapper, the Dirty Sprite rapper, I'd have to say. It's like a radio ready kind of grizzled hustle type music, I'd have to say in particular. And this just has a slog kind of makeshift type feel about it. So this one's definitely pretty affable just within that relative pitch behind it. This has a lot of good appeal in terms of that. And the song definitely could have been a single as far as that pitch kind of goes along with it. It's a real affable type one. This one just works great for like some makeshift type haze. It's kind of a great one for just got done with work. Some of those type pitches are just, possibly it's a little bit grizzled, but it is kind of a hustle type tune, a money getting type tune to some pitches like that. Just kind of have for just kind of picking up some supplies, some stuff like that, getting some bills paid, some of those type pitches as far as that particularly kind of goes. It's kind of one. It's a ride out type song within a relative pitch, but it's also kind of forlorn. I just would have to say within that relative type pitch behind it. It's just kind of one that's just kind of It just adds some thrills to like Makeshift because you wouldn't see a song like this from like a rock band talking about a battlefield as far as that kind of goes. This is like a trap type tune within that relative sense, but it works great for like some Makeshift as far as that particular kind of happens of just being in the car, getting done with work, some of those type pitches, but it's just kind of in the it's just kind of in a more hustlers type Makeshift variation of that, I'd have to say. So that's a nice one. Take Your Shoes Off is a pretty good highlight. This is definitely a peppy type one. It's like a butter smooth kind of swag tune, I'd have to suppose in particular. This has a poppy kind of nightclub type shine of a song. This has a poppy kind of nightclub shine about it, I would definitely say. And this is just a good vehicle breezing type tune, I would feel like. And this is just kind of a song for being in a good mood. So this is a pretty peppy type one. Definitely like the kind of affable. This just feels like an ice cream parlor. This song just feels like an ice cream parlor type song, I would have to say in particular. Just a real breezy type one to kind of have. Just taking a shotty or a chica out for ice cream, some pitches like that, as far as that particular kind of happens. It's a real kind of basic, breezy type one to kind of have. This is a nightclub type song. It's just kind of a smooth type one, vehicle bound type one. Definitely for some vehicle centric type stuff. That's the theme of this particular song. Is just talking about some kickback with some vehicle bound typeness, but it's just kind of a peppy type one that just has a good pop rap type appeal about it. That's a nice one. Money Man's a pretty highlighted one. This is like a crispy kind of night crawling fun of a song, I'd have to say. This has a bass heavy. The song is definitely a bass heavy kind of vehicle thumper, I would have to suppose. You can definitely hear the song from a distance, I'd have to say. Pretty nice one. This is like an excellent kind of night owl life of a song, I'd have to say. Excellent kind of night owl life gem, I would definitely have to say. And it's a pretty quality song, I just would feel about that one. So this is a nice one. Has a real nice beat on here, just excellently produced. Just would have to suppose it's a real nice one to kind of have. Thumping type one, vehicle bound type stuff, just kind of being in a vehicle, just kind of going in between. Almost, this can definitely be a nightclub song, but it's also kind of one for just pull up type tunes and stunt type flexing. Just as far as that pitch kind of happens, just looking nice and crispy as far as that particular pitch kind of happens with it. Just some good concepts. I Know is a pretty highlighted one. This is like a forlorn kind of I Know is like a forlorn kind of anguish trap tune, I would have to say in particular. This has a great production. I would definitely feel like this is one of the best produced songs on the album, I'd say, but that's not taking a natch at it just because this whole album is excellently produced. But this is some Evening Haze, I would definitely feel like. This is a collected kind of bill paying makeshift cut, I would have to suppose. This is definitely one, just getting the bills paid, some stuff like that, just picking up some stands, some of those type pitches, just getting tasks done, paying taxes, some of those type pitches, just within that relative type fare. Just kind of a malaise and kind of forlorn type one, just kind of has that slag type feeling about it. I do like some of these slag type songs on here, like Crack Music, Battlefield, and I Know, some of those particular type pitches that just have like that anguish kind of forlornness about them, that just have a lot of good dragging type atmosphere, just for like some of that typical kind of malaise of just the work shift just works pretty well just within those pitches. That has, I suppose, there's some nice ones to kind of have just for some good pep, just for some good adornment and decoration for like some makeshift as far as that pitch kind of has just some good stuff. Count on Me is a pretty nice one. This is like a pop rap kind of radio ready hustle tune, I'd have to say. This is like an excellent kind of bouncy promo flash of a song, I'd have to say. And this just has a stellar hook. Definitely one of the best hooks on the album, I'd have to say, definitely in particular. This is just good for like a vanilla outing. So this works as like a promo type song, just something for kind of peppy, like date night type stuff, just within that relative pitch, but also just like a basic and kind of vanilla kind of outing night as far as that pitch kind of goes along with it. Just a real kind of peppy type one, pop rap, radio ready, stuff like that. Just really a more breezier type song, but it works. Gorillaz though doesn't sell out on this particular song, so it's a pretty nice one. I'd have to suppose this really has that appeal. Money Up's another highlight one. That's like a finishing errands up kind of pizzazz of a song, I'd have to say. It's like a getting ready for some shrill turn up type tune, I would definitely feel like. And this is just some definite kind of Thursday night music, I'd have to say. And this song is pretty thrilling. So this is another hustle type bop. I just would have to say in particular, definitely like the concept of some of these, just because the fact of the matter is, sometimes hustle songs can kind of be boring just within that relative pitch. I'm glad the girls though had the pizzazz of just having like the spark of kind of getting people excited and thrilled about wanting to get on the grind and get some money as far as that pitch can have. So some good stuff to kind of get some of these. Definitely appreciate the kind of grind. Definitely appreciate the kind of grind just with like an appealing type context as far as that kind of goes along with it. You Don't Know Me is a pretty highlighted one. This has D Woods from Danity Kane on there. It's a pretty good concept. We get that one. It's like a radio ready kind of dramatic ladies back and forth of a song, I'd have to say. Definitely a good concept. This is like a romantic kind of trap bop, I would definitely have to say. And this is just like a Travers kind of work shift kind of hit. It's like a Travers kind of work shift kind of hit, I'd have to say. So it's a good concept. Get this one. This is probably one of the few ladies full blown type songs on here that's more radio and makeshift kind of ready as far as that pitch kind of happens. Just a more typical kind of blue collar type one just within that relative pitch. Definitely some evening and night type fare, I would have to suppose. Definitely more kind of 7:30, 8:30 p.m. type stuff. This car traverse just kind of out and about, just in like the evening shift as far as that pitch kind of goes along, just kind of going maybe to restaurants, things like that. Those relative pitches, stepping out to like a nightclub, something like that, going to play poke, going to play pool, some of those type pitches. I'd have to suppose pretty good concept for that. But I just look after it. Pretty nice affable type one. I mean, once again, this is another work shift type song, like so many of these on here, like Battlefield and like Money Man and Battlefield and You Don't Know Me and Money Up and some of those type ones. Count on Me in some cases. I'd have to suppose there's just some nice ones on here for that sort of pitch. Lil Shotty's pretty nice one. This is like a pounding kind of nightclub icebreaker of a song. I'd have to say it's like a good dance bop. I would definitely feel like, and this is just a vanilla kind of social night out. I would have to say, and this is just a get cranked kind of. And the song is a get cranked a bit kind of gem. I would feel like so this is definitely one. This would definitely be one to kind of have some drinks in your system. I mean, there's not terribly many songs off this particular album that kind of are like full blown. There are not terribly many songs off this particular album that are full blown get cranked and tore up as far as that particular pitch kind of happens, but I do like this particular one. This probably has one of the best beats on the album in terms of dance club type music, dance club type hits, twerk type songs for the ladies as far as that pitch kind of happens. It's real kind of affable Friday night type music as far as that pitch kind of goes, but it is a nice one. Just some real good kind of recreational appeal as far as that kind of goes along with it. And then last time I checked, it's a pretty nice one. This is like a grimy. Last time I checked, it's like a grimy kind of in the trenches type haze of a song. I'd have to say this reminds me of "In My Hood" by 50 Cent. I would definitely have to say, and this is like a workaday kind of steadfast trap type hit. So it's definitely one. It's kind of this regular workaday type fare as far as that pitch kind of goes. This evening sense is something like that, just within that night type pitch, like 8:30, 9 p.m., 7:30 p.m. as the sun's starting to set, just within that relative pitch. It's kind of a grimy gutter kind of in the cut type tune, just for workaday kind of city, just out and about type fare. A little bit grizzled, maybe a little bit disgruntled, just within that relative pitch, but it is a pretty trap centric hood type tune. I would have to suppose in particular. So that's a nice one. Just appreciate this whole album damn near just within that relative pitch. So this album's gonna get a 10 out of 10. Me only disliking two songs, or at least one and a half songs. I would say that Real Motherfuckers kind of here and there, but only real song I didn't full blown like in some fashion was Just Do Something. But this album's gonna get a 10 out of 10. 13 out of 15 songs I recommend in the full blown fashion. 13 out of 15 songs I recommend in the full blown fashion, I'd have to say. So the concept, the social score is going to get a 10 out of 10 also, just because I appreciate the affability of this particular project. I like the fact that Gorilla Zoe tried to add some pep to like the work shift and makeshift type haze as far as that kind of happened with it. Just kind of has some trap type tunes that although Gorilla Zoe is kind of a hustler in that sort of sense, just within that relative pitch, there's just some songs for kind of having a blue collar type job and stuff like that. So there is some bops on here, some good ladies type songs and Bay type songs within that work shift relative haze, just as far as that pitch kind of goes along with it. And some great just nightclub stepping out type songs. Just a good overall hustlers type makeshift of an album that just has a lot of appeal about it, and some social spark that just does a lot of things. I like the guests on here. I like that Big Gee and Young Jock are on here a couple of times. Jody Breeze is on here a couple of times as well. He does like a hook on one of these songs. I think he drops at least one verse on here as far as that pitch kind of goes along with it. Most of the Boys in the Hood members are on here, minus Big Duke, which is too bad because Big Duke's pretty awesome too. I'd have to suppose it's too bad that he wasn't on here more. He was kind of here and there on like the Boys in the Hood backup in the Chevy album also. So I just wonder why he wasn't doing I just wonder why he wasn't doing as much in 2007 as far as that pitch can have. But that's just kind of the concept about it. So that's the pitch behind it, I'd have to say. So 10 out of 10 social. In terms of the future, like Gorilla Zoe has dropped a number of projects. He dropped a mixtape every single day in the month of February 2010. So there's a ton more projects to kind of get to as far as that pitch can happen. So I am eventually going to review Don't Feed the Animals and King Kong, some of those type pitches, his other two albums, just some stuff like that. There's some more Boys in the Hood projects that he's involved with that I'm going to get to. Definitely some more Gorilla Zoe to get to as far as that pitch kind of goes along with it. But I'd have to say this is a classic. I'd have to suppose definitely a Southern classic as far as that pitch kind of happens. Just would say some excellent stuff on here. Plenty of good work shift, social type craze and stuff like that. Good, excellent weekend type album that makes makeshift kind of fair also throw in as well as far as that pitch kind of goes along with it. So I just would have to say it's some good stuff and I do recommend it. So yeah, some excellent stuff here and I recommend it extensively, I'd have to say.